Please welcome, hello, Mr. Syracuse, NBC Sports, Mike Tirico.
Hello, friend. Good to see you, Kay. How you doing?
I'm so great. I'm so full of joy that you're on the show. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure. Glad to see you. Glad you're doing well. Yeah, I'm around the house running errands, doing those before you leave kind of things.
Yeah.
Got a big Syracuse game tonight against Pittsburgh. You know, there is life outside of the Big Ten and the SEC in college football, and got 6-0 and 5-1 in the ACC. So looking forward to a fun game tonight.
I have nothing to add to that, but I'm rooting for you always, Tirico. I don't know how you balance it all. You know, I was just talking about, I can't even embrace the NBA right now, but you, and then I think of you and I'm watching you on these Olympic sets, just nailing it live with all these different things. And you've got the Olympics in Paris, was just incredible. Sunday Night Football Triple Crown coverage coming up. Life's pretty good for Mike Tirico.
It is. It's busy, but it's great. The Olympics were awesome. I can't tell you how much fun it was to be a part of that. We got a chance, Kay, a couple of weeks ago to go to the White House, and the president, as usual, no matter who's in office, they honor the athletes from Team USA. The Olympians and Paralympians were there, about 400 of them. And just to revisit with the athletes and just hear how Paris was so transformational and life-changing for them. It was really cool to catch up with everyone and discuss that. And I reflect back and really can comfortably say it was the most rewarding professional event I've been a part of. What our NBC team, 3,000 people in Paris in the U.S. did, what the athletes did, the host setting at Paris was, and just has us all jazzed for L.A. coming up in 4 years. We have Milan in between with the Winter Games, which is going to be really cool. But L.A. in 28 has a chance to be very special, and the pressure's on because Paris crushed it, but I'm sure L.A. will live up to it.
If you're thinking about this year as a broadcaster, was it the best year for you in your career if you had to rank them? I can't imagine.
You know, right there with 2 years ago, because 2 years ago was hosting the Super Bowl pregame, which I had always hoped to do at some point, but you never know if you can get the chance to do it, right? It depends on contracts and who's where and what job you're doing at that point. But to get the chance to host the Super Bowl pregame and the Olympics in China in the same few weeks, and really in the same day too, because right after we got off the podium with Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford and Stan Kroenke and all the people from the Rams, we jumped right onto the field and then hosted the Olympics that night, our coverage of the games from China. It was really a cool experience that probably never had again in my life. So that was right up there. But this year has been fabulous. Sunday night's off to a great start, and we got the Niners and Cowboys, like you said, this week. So it's been great. You really pinch yourself every once in a while and go, I'm still doing what I wanted to do when I was a 20-year-old in college, which is really fun.
You make it look so easy. So I'll ask you, with any of these experiences, even just the ones from this past year, you've got NBA coming up. We're excited about that. When's the last time you felt really challenged? Where it's like, or what would be maybe the most challenging call or part of a production for even the great Mike Tirico?
Oh, well, thanks for saying that. You know, the Olympics were a real challenge.
Yeah.
I think every day it's a challenge. It's not just the volume of athletes, it's the international flavor to it. You know, we live in very challenged, difficult, and uncomfortable times. Coming to sports is almost a refuge for many, but there are still political issues that you've got to dive into and cover. And I think, you know, especially China a couple of years ago, COVID, the Chinese government restrictions on things. I mean, we traveled around. They would not let us outside. It was during COVID, and we had to stay in these bubbles. So there was a bubble at the International Broadcast Center, a bubble at the hotel, a bubble at the venues, and we couldn't go outside. So I looked out my window for 2+ weeks at a McCafe right across the street, and I couldn't go over and get a little coffee, a little mocha, a little anything. All you could do is just see it. So I think that was a reminder of how challenging the Olympic stage can be, because at any point, you can insult a country. You can insult people from a country. You have to be really careful around that. So I'd say the night in, night out of the Olympics is probably the most challenging thing that's on my docket right now. But I love it. I'm a political science major, in addition to being a broadcast journalism major in college at Syracuse and a big sports fan. So like to have to delve into that stuff every once in a while, it kind of scratches that news itch for me a little bit. But that's the one I think that on a regular basis you're going, okay, we survived that one. We didn't get anybody mad at us. Let's try to do the same tomorrow.
For those of you playing the Syracuse drinking game with Mike Tirico this morning, he said it about 9 times. So everyone's drunk. Please drive safely to work as we continue to talk to you. An absolute legend. Let's talk about Jets Steelers for a little bit. And I want to talk about the politics. That was a nice segue you gave me to launch into some politics, but I'm not going to. But you and Chris, you talked on the broadcast about, sitting down with Aaron Rodgers and then Davante Adams. Yeah. They're reunited. You had these pre-production meetings that I would just die for a glimpse into. What stood out to you about Aaron and just where he is right now? Because he's someone you can really sense the energy from when you have a little chat.
Yeah, I've enjoyed covering Aaron over the years. We got to call his first start when I was doing Monday Night in 2008. His first start for the Packers was against the Vikings. It was in Lambeau, and I'll never forget sitting in the booth, the network booth in Lambeau, and looking down, and you saw all these Favre jerseys. They were still in the Favre world. They didn't want to let go of that for themselves. So it was just really a fascinating night. So watching Aaron for all these years as a starter has been great to have a front row seat for 2, sometimes 3 Rodgers production meetings / starts per season. So Aaron was really happy when we saw him. He was not commensurate in terms of emotion with a quarterback who's here to win a championship or nothing else on a 3-game losing streak, which they were. Now it's 4. He was really happy to have Davante, and I think that connection's going to work. I really do. And I think it's going to help Garrett Wilson. I think it's going to help Breece Hall. I think it's going to help Braylon Allen. I think it's going to help that entire offense. Allen Lazard, who was having a good year, he's going to become a heck of a number 3 receiver in this group. I think if they stay healthy, they're going to do some good things. The defensive side of the ball is having some issues right now. I think they'll get that fixed. The question is it too far? Because they've lost margin for error. Mm-hmm. If you're sitting here with 2 wins at this point in the season, at 2-5, you're kind of looking at maybe 8-2 is what you're going to need to get in the AFC. So that leaves very little margin of error with short weeks and good teams and all the stuff that comes with it. You have to go to Buffalo, Houston on a short week, all still on their schedule, plus some other good games. So I'm worried if they have enough runway to do it. But I do think the connection of Rodgers and Davante is real. When you watch people who work together, when their connection is real and it makes them better, that's a real one. And seeing both of them, I got that sense when we visited with them last Saturday.
Yeah, Davante visits our show every week. I hope that we're hearing more about how he's been a vocal leader during that game. I'm loving seeing it. I'm loving seeing it. I love watching the broadcast, and obviously, I wait for the graphic animations of whatever your amazing production staff is going to come up with. I think this week they were like running towards each other. There's always something incredible. Let's give credit to the people who come up with those ideas, and I would love to know when they pitch them to you. Are you serious?
1,000%. So our producer, Rob Hyland, our director, Drew Esikoff, they lead a meeting during the week, and our creative team comes up with them. And I love them too, because I'll see the storyboards, the ideas late in the week, and just laugh. And, and it's our audio too. It's the music. They picked up Peaches and Herb reunited from the late 70s.
That's what it was.
And there's this picture of Aaron and Davante around the water in Central Park, sitting there with ice cream cones. And then in the background, because they're the second pair to get reunited that have had 50 touchdowns with another team, the other were Brady and Gronk. And there's Brady and Gronk in the back, just kind of hanging out and waving to them. It's just having fun with facts, right? And hey, that's the way I think a lot of us studied when we were in school at Syracuse. There's 10. You just found a fun way to remember stuff, right? And if it sticks with you and it's fun, we enjoy it. And I'm glad you mentioned our team, because I love our Sunday Night Football team. We have so much fun doing this week in, week out. It's not just me and Chris and Melissa and Rob and Drew, who I mentioned, but it's our whole production team. I mean, there's laughs, there's side jokes, there's kidding each other. Your school loses, we'll make sure somebody mentions it to you. It's fun. And Kay, that's what makes 20 weeks on the road together so much fun. You end up spending half your year or half the week for those 20 weeks of the year with the same people. And that's what is I think, the joy for us. And hopefully that comes out in the broadcast and the product and the fun that we have.
I love, that's incredibly said. It's truly fun to watch, and I wait for it. I have a cult following with what do these guys come up with? And the way that you and Chris obviously bounce off of each other, sometimes you don't know what to say. It's so incredible. It is must-see television, of course. And I can't believe, I was just reading a little birdie telling me about Sunday Night Basketball starting up after you called the Super Bowl in 2026. We're returning to hoops. I love this for you.
Getting back to basketball, it was funny. I was watching the game last night. I heard you in the break talk about the Clippers. I was watching the Intuit Dome, and I was thinking, wow, a year from now, we'll be back at it with the NBA. And that started for me, in 2002, I guess, was my first NBA season when ESPN got the package for the first time. So I did probably, something in the neighborhood of 300 NBA games, called 5 or 6 NBA finals on the radio with Huey Brown and the late, great Dr. Jack Ramsey.
Wow.
Hosted NBA finals those first few years. Got the awkward picture of Tim Duncan standing next to me, about 1.5 feet taller than me, trying to interview him. What are you saying up there, right? So I'm excited to watch the league and get back to it. And just was thinking about that last night watching the games.
Of course you were watching the games. I don't know, you should teach a masterclass on time management skills and being able to pick it all up. I want to ask you, before we get into this Cowboys-Niners matchup, if you and Chris could pick one celebrity. I was thinking about Paris, so many celebrities, and Snoop, and the Alex Coopers of the world. If you could pick one celebrity, not from Paris, but in general, that you would do 4 quarters, the entire game in the booth with, 3-man booth with, you, Chris, and who would it be?
Wow, for the whole game. So that's an interesting one, because you're talking somebody. But you have to be talking somebody who really loves and gets football. Fair. So I'm going to give you one. I'll give you one. Somebody who, honestly, if they were in the booth, I think they'd have a good time and they'd add to the game a little bit. And I'm not talking any football players, no ex-athletes, right?
No.
Darius Rucker would be great.
Let's hear it. Why?
He's a legit hardcore Dolphins fan, raised on the Dolphins of the 70s and the 80s, follows college football on a regular basis, follows the NFL, loves it, has a passion for it, and that celebrity space with music and all the stuff, all the people he's come across. I think he would come in and for 4 quarters kind of know how to do the deal and go through it with us. I think if you're just talking about who could add to the broadcast some, just randomly, top of mind, Darius comes to mind. Kenny Chesney comes to mind too.
Country singers.
Chesney's a huge, they sing about football, but they love their football. Having been around and met both of them, those 2 guys would be pretty cool. McConaughey, obviously, because he loves football. There's a bunch of people who've shown their love of football over the years, but I'm picturing
Rucker singing Wagon Wheel. Just Chris chiming in. I see it.
Exactly. The game gets bad in the 3rd quarter. It's like 24-point deficit. Got the guitar there. You can start playing. So that would be pretty good.
Rob Hyland's like, don't get any ideas, Tirico. We're not making a storyboard about this.
Okay, I lived the celebrity guest in the booth the first couple of years of Monday Night Football in 2006 and 2007. Trust me, I'm really good with just Chris. It's a different world. It's a different space. We had Barkley in there. We had Stallone in there. We had Jimmy Kimmel in there, which was actually one of the funnier nights.
That would be fun.
We had Jimmy Kimmel in Seattle one night who looked at me, Kornheiser, and Theismann. He said, "Hey, Mike. Hey, Tony. Hey, Joe. How's your leg?" It's like, oh my God, no! It's just don't start. Jimmy was Jimmy. He was Jimmy the whole night. It was a trip. It was funny. But
Jimmy was Jimmy.
I'm good with just Chris.
We're
promise
good.
you.
That's all you need. And I actually have my showrunner was at that game. He used to work on Kimmel, and he's chiming in like, I remember that. That was insane.
Yes, it was.
Well, maybe we can make another memory this week. Maybe just between you and Chris. This Sunday night big matchup. It's Niners. It's Cowboys. Both teams underachievers on expectations 7 weeks in. Both desperate for a win. I'm scared of who loses this game. What are you looking at? What are you most excited about?
You said the line, Kay, that I've been thinking about the last couple of days, because if you look at this game on the schedule and you think, wow, blockbuster, could have number 1 seed implications down the line, head-to-head tiebreaker. Now it might be the tiebreaker for who gets to the playoffs. But we're early. San Francisco has started 3-4 in a recent iteration and made it to the conference championship. So there's no reason to panic just yet. But there is concern. You take the offensive player of the year, you take 2,000 scrimmage yards and almost a couple of dozen touchdowns out of your lineup. And that's what you do without Christian McCaffrey. And then multiply that by the other people who've been missing along the way here. Now Ayuk is out for the rest of the season, obviously. That's a significant impact on Brock Purdy at quarterback, on the entirety of the team. There have been different faces and guys on the defensive side of the ball as well. So it's a San Francisco team that's not what we've seen the last 3 or 4 years. On the Dallas side, wow, this offense just has not brought anything to the table running the football, period. They're last in the league running the football in terms of yards per game. And if they don't balance it a little bit, it's going to be hard to see Dak and CeeDee Lamb be at their best. But I will caution, when they hit the bye last year, they came out and they were a much better offensive team, a much more efficient offensive team. Washington and Philadelphia have not run away in the NFC East. So although every loss in Dallas is a 5-star alarm and a panic, it's not over yet for either team. Both of these teams could very, very, very easily, right around Thanksgiving, be tied for their division lead, right in their division mix. But lose another game here, and it gets a little bit steeper of a climb. So this is a very important game for a lot different reasons than we thought it was going to be coming into this week.
You're the best. Do you understand? You are the best.
You're so sweet.
I cannot wait to hear and listen and see the animation, whatever. Mike Tirico, CRIS Collinsworth in the booth for Cowboys-Niners pivotal game. Lots of implications for just this week, their respective divisions, the NFC, the NFL at large. It is this Sunday night, huge one, 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock. I got to ask you, I know you're Mike from Queens. Who we got? Yankees, Dodgers.
Oh, wow, that's a tough one. So I grew up a Mets fan. I outgrew that. It's like an allergy outgrow at some point in life. I outgrew that. People were on me after the Jets game when I said the Mets and the Jets disappointed a lot of folks in the New York area, and they're used to being disappointed by the Mets and Jets because the Mets got eliminated on Sunday night and the Jets lost. And people were getting like, hey, gang, I had season tickets for both teams at Shea Stadium. I grew up in that place, so I was that disappointed kid for 20 years. So I say it from experience. I'm not trying to pick on y'all. I never really disliked the Yankees, even though I grew up a Mets fan, and just had great respect for their run. I'd like to see the Dodgers and Ohtani win the World Series, simply because I think it could be that international platform jump that baseball needs something right now to be more than a regional sport. I don't love the fact that the highest payroll teams make it to the World Series this year. I was excited that the Tigers, the team I root for here in Michigan, that they had a great run this year to get to the playoffs and beat the Astros in the series. But I think a Dodger win globally could do a lot for baseball because of Ohtani and all the eyes and all the attention that'll be on. I hope both he and Judge have really good series, but I think the Dodgers I would take as a slight little, man, it may be good for baseball overall if that happens. Either way, winning World Series for baseball, flagship franchises, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be hopefully 6 or 7 really good games for my buddy Joe Davis and the guys at Fox who do a great job.
Mike, you just did all that work to win back New Yorkers who were mad at you and just to say the Dodgers are going to win, and I love that for you. Mike Tirico, thank you.
Kay, you know who's in New York, right?
Okay, and we're drunk. We're drunk on the show,